Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 6 Degrees of Associations. We are excited this week to be getting back to a referral from a previous guest on our show, Mary Coppola. For those of you who remember, she shared some of her life and experience at United Fresh, which was a produce association. And at the end of the episode, she recommended to us that we should speak with Amanda Keefer, the managing director of Healthy Families Project. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I was very flattered. Mary is so nice for recommending me.
I love it. And Lucas, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. I'm looking forward to this one. This is sort of a venture outside of our traditional association vendor introducing cause marketing. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. And Amanda, I think you shared with me that you and Mary actually had not necessarily met before, but she was enamored with some of the tactics that you all used in your cause marketing campaigns. And I just thought that that was so cool to know that, it's just, she's a wonderful person. And just to know that sometimes people are just saying, I just saw something very cool and innovative by this one person, and I want you to speak to them. So that's awesome that we get to talk to you. And as Lucas said, bring a totally sort of different spin to how we normally talk about marketing and associations and the world of it. So I think we could go in so many different directions, but maybe we just at least kick off for our audience to talk a little bit about cause marketing and Healthy Family Projects as an organization.
Sure. So cause marketing, I like to say the easy term, I say doing well by doing good. So growing your sales, showing, your best foot forward, all of these things, but also doing good. And I feel like over the years, society has maybe become a little more comfortable with that. In the past, I think maybe it was like, oh, they're growing their sales, so they don't really want to give back. It's like, hey, we're still giving back if we're able to bring people in to make purchases, to support these brands and be able to make a difference. It's awesome. It's a 360 where everybody wins in that regard. So at Healthy Family Project, we execute grocery store campaigns that are produce department centric, focused on healthy eating. We bring on produce partners to be a part of those, and we're able to give back to food banks in the local grocers communities. So we're pumping up the healthy eating message, we're showcasing these amazing companies, and then those companies are giving back to the communities where those shoppers buy their groceries. And so that's really at the core. Kind of a bigger picture is we're kind of an influencer, I guess, if you will, out there sharing healthy recipes and ideas and tips, and just trying to be really useful for families overall in the digital space.
I think what's really cool about that, two things that I want to make sure we get kudos out there for you as an organization and what you're doing. And again, I love to always say the word analog. How can our audience be seeing analog situations where they can go, oh, maybe that's a shift I should make. So one I would say is you went from being, I think, Produce for Families. Is that what the previous name was?
Produce for Kids.
Produce for Kids. And now you're Healthy Family Project, which allows you to expand beyond produce, but doesn't leave produce behind. So one, maybe talking a little bit about the brand transition. But then the other side of it is you are a real creative agency. I mean, the things that you all are executing is content delivery, digital, experiential, online podcasts, things like that. So we've talked to marketing agencies before, but what's so cool here is that you have this unique expertise in how to actually connect marketing tactics with the tactics for raising funds, for connecting brands with audiences through this doing good. So I'd love to talk a little bit about the brand transition and then how that basis of being really a creative group of people who are able to bring that to fruition.
Yeah, so it's been a journey. I've been with the organization for 10 years. And so Produce for Kids was started in 2002. Really just, we're owned by Schumann Farms, so a Vidalia onion company out of Georgia. Mm-hmm. And his vision, John Schumann, our president, was how can the produce industry give back? Like we're great people. We want to do good. And so his first campaign was with Publix back in 2002. And I'm proud to say we've raised $7 million since then, going back to charities that focus in on families and children. And so I think that starting, his vision, and then over the years as digital and social media and things came into the mix, because we really were for many years just that grocery store kind of POS plug and play kind of campaign. And then I think as moving into the late, 2009, 2008, 2009, we started seeing this shift of people looking for, you know, recipes and information online, and thought this is going to be really cool for the produce industry. How do we keep that retail element and still do these cause marketing campaigns, but also then offer these digital programs that are going to, like you said, almost serve as an agency in a way. But it's weird because we also are the influencer. So we're creating the content, but then we're also have the cool side of it where we have an audience that we can push it out to. So that's really cool as well. I feel like I went on a tangent. Did I answer your question?
You did.
I've learned a ton already from Amanda. Like, I am kind of intrigued by the fact that you're marrying cause marketing, but it not necessarily, while cause-based items and initiatives are such a relevant thing today, that you also mentioned that there's also a sales component. So I'm thinking in the association realm that we're not just executives aren't looking to just dump a bunch of money into a cause, which would be a great thing to do. You can actually combine that with other initiatives to sort of, you said it better, like do good by doing something, but that was,
yes, do well by doing good. Yep.
so could you share like some tactical examples, sanitize them if you need to, of how an association could use that type of cause-based marketing to further some other initiatives? And
Yeah, I think that, maybe thinking from an association standpoint, like membership, when you're out looking for members, maybe figuring out like what do our members or potential members, like what do they care about? Like what are these three like things that could really drive them to want to be a part of this association? I think understanding the association's cause, like we talked a little bit before we jumped in,
yeah,
um, is going to continue to be important to anyone, when you're making a purchase, when you're joining, an association, where you're choosing a job, those types of things are really going to become more and more important as we're seeing now that shift where people want to know, like, all right, that's cool, you're doing that, but like, what are you doing to give back? So it is a big one. I've seen that in several different associations in the produce industry, and one in particular that I was on the board of, the Southeast Produce Council. They have, one of their pillars is giving back, and so they're the Southeast Produce Council, but they have one key charity in each state in the Southeast, and they make that very known to their members and offer opportunities to their members to get out and volunteer if they so choose. So it's very ingrained in that association. I feel like it could be in all associations, really.
Yeah, I think it's, when I think about associations, and certainly they can benefit very large corporations when it comes to influencing perhaps government affairs or influencing industry-wide changes, right? But then a lot of people are also joining associations because they're much smaller organizations and they're looking for a larger association to help them with tasks and issues that they can't necessarily handle on their own, almost as if it's like service, as a service. By the association. We've talked about it with a couple of different organizations. This particularly rings a bell to me of, small businesses who maybe don't even know, well, if I only can give $50,000 a year to a nonprofit organization, does that even make an impact? How do I even get that message out? What is it worth it to me? Shouldn't I use that $50,000 to go back into my product or whatever it is? And so to me, this seems like a real no-brainer that associations, especially if they're ones that work with small to mid-sized businesses frequently, it might be a real unique partnership to join up with an organization like yours that has that access not only to the nonprofits to give the funds to, but then, as you say, being in a unique position as an influencer in those particular areas. So you serve as this really unique partnership. And that can only serve to benefit the associations. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Yes. I think, we talked a little bit about United Fresh earlier, and our organization is part of United Fresh. And even for us being part of that association and having a relationship with them, we're able to get in front of health conscious brands, the produce companies that may not know much about us, and they are those companies that are going, we want to give back, but what are we going to do? We only have $5,000. Well, guess what? If we come together in a campaign and we bring on a citrus person and a berry person and a onion, and we come all together and we all have $5,000, that $5,000 becomes 70,000. And in Feeding America terms, let me say this right, $1 equals 10 meals. So then that $70,000 becomes 700,000 meals on the tables of families who otherwise might not have a meal on their table that day. And so I think that it's easy to get stuck in that, because I know joining our organization at Healthy Family Project, sometimes you look at those small numbers and you're like, well, there's these guys over here just writing a check for 3 million. What am I going to do with this 2,000? And it's like, okay, I know how we can do this. We can make it work.
What do most organizations that are considering working with you see as the challenge, and how do you all overcome that? What does that look like for potential clients?
Well, I guess the produce industry, maybe with any industry, but with my background in produce, budgets really range, so it has to be the right fit. I was talking to an organization earlier today and saying, I would never want to take you down. If this isn't right for you, then so let's really have a conversation about it, because the times you go into those partnerships or relationships where you're not both on the same page like that, or there's reservations that, so I think budget is always, a concern. So it just depends. There's some retailers that we work with, some grocery chains like Publix, that are very large. And so the investment is larger, obviously. And then we have some other small markets that we work with that might be better for a local grower or someone who distributes to that store. And the same with digital campaigns that we do. Someone may have a product launch and say, I only have this amount to work with. What can we do, if anything? And then we figure it out. And for our digital campaigns, it's always a 10% of your marketing. The marketing fee goes back to Feeding America, as our primary organization that we give back to. We work with different charities, but usually that's who we go back to with that 10%. So it's across the board, but we figure it out. But as long as it's right for everybody, like I said, that's the key to it. Because if you're not invested in it in the right way, then it won't work, no matter how much I want to will it into.
Yeah. I mean, Lucas, this sort of makes me think of, just to sort of draw some comparisons here, but in the way that I understand affinity marketing, right? So this opportunity for associations to consistently look at, how do I get non-dues revenue? Okay. Corporations, same thing. What do I need to do out in the market to bring in something off the top to be able to make the effort worth it? And here it ties that, again, that nonprofit lens, that cause marketing lens, which, as we all were discussing before we hopped on to record, you really can't survive these days if you don't know what you are doing to give back to the world. It just isn't, and that's for good reason. That's not making a political statement. That's saying, look, everyone wants to feel good about the purchase that they're making. So how often, because I know in the affinity world, you're sort of having to constantly say, how do I show ROI? How do I show that by pushing UPS, by pushing, Sherwin-Williams, we are able to draw in revenue for you? How do you help your clients see, look, hey, by pushing this particular healthy message, your sales are going to go, which is how we're getting that money back? Are you often tasked with that ROI conversation?
Oh yeah. Always. So that's a huge part of our discussions on our team every week. And again, like I said, if we can't deliver the ROI that you're looking for, we are always very transparent. I was on a call earlier today and they were asking about metrics, and I said, I will give you, we are so transparent about our metrics because we want you to feel good about what you're doing and your investment. And so we use a program, which is actually really cool, in the marketing space, especially in kind of digital marketing, that you plug in all your links and all your promotions that you've done. And what it does is it calculates real time. So as you know, a blog post that you do or an Instagram post or Pinterest or whatever, you could report a number 2 months after you post it, but that number is going to change years from now. That number is going to change, who knows to what. And
Yeah.
so the program we use actually does real time updates. So the links that our partners receive will continue to show them, like they could log in, 4 months from now and be able to continue to see their results grow. Because I mean, healthy eating and those kinds of things I don't think are going away anytime soon. I wouldn't think so. So it's awesome that we found that program that's able to report in that way and very transparently too, because we're not that they're pulling the numbers, we are we're there to, post the content and get it all out there, and then we have that reporting in place. So definitely always a conversation, but important. And if I were on the other side, I that always put myself in those shoes and say, well, I wouldn't do this if I didn't know that. And so they need that.
Yeah. I drew similar parallels, Aaron. I was having the same sort of thought process in my mind, the parallels between cause marketing affinity programs, and conceptually, when it's right and you have a scenario where everybody's winning, that in fact happens, right? So everybody wins from the partnerships that you put together. And we talked about this on previous episodes too. The data, as you mentioned, Amanda, like it's critical, and it's sort of what drives your decisions. And you share that data, right? Being transparent and honest with everybody about what's working, and maybe sometimes importantly, like what's not working, and be able to act quickly and move. Like those are important elements.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to do like a quick, let's do a brainstorm here, because you guys are going out to Healthy Family Project. And so again, it doesn't leave the produce industry behind, but all of a sudden, as I was mentioning, I listened to one of your podcasts and you talked about how strawberries have magnesium in them, and magnesium helps sleep. And okay, wait, now that makes me think, are there sleep therapists association out there that all of a sudden they say, oh my gosh, wait, we want to partner with this organization because we can push healthy supplements or healthy food that will help people sleep better. So what are some other things that we can get some of our audience thinking about? We have a wide audience in the association market. Who else could benefit from a Healthy Families Project?
So top of my mind is mental health.
Yeah.
Everything mental health, because if your nutrition and you're not eating the right things and putting the right things into your body, it's all out the window. A couple episodes ago on our podcast, I learned that the majority of your serotonin receptors are in your gut, so in your stomach area. And I thought, that's so crazy. So basically, if your gut health is bad, you're gonna be potentially dealing with depression and anxiety and all these other mental things that could hinder you, and not really ever thinking, wow, I need to fix this problem. So I think mental health is a big one across the board. I think especially over the past year and a half, with the pandemic, and has shined a new light on especially like the mental health of kids and teens, and paying attention to all of that. So that's probably number one in my book. But it's interesting you said about the sleep too, because that's another big one where if you're not consuming the right things, your sleep is affected. I think there's probably a correlation to every association out there in some way or another.
Yes, yeah. Lucas and I are very familiar with the Kidney Foundation and any organization around nephrology. And so, yep, that's another area where diet is extraordinarily important, in making sure you're getting your supplements from food, not necessarily taking supplements and things like that. So I love the idea that we could sit here and brainstorm for a while and come up with a bunch of clients for you.
My immediate went to like American Diabetes Association, not only because it's very health related, but also my neighbor helps lead a diabetes training course at the Innova Hospital Center in the Northern Virginia area. And so constantly getting some input on, what we should eat and not eat for diabetes prevention. But I also, we work with a lot of construction and contractor groups. So we hear a lot of things about fatigue and work fatigue and the liability behind not having healthy bodies when you're out at a construction site. I mean, this could just go on if we did this.
So I would even in that regard, you think right now we're in this heat of the summer, and water. So you hear people say all the time about water. I don't really like water. Well, infuse it with a lime or a cucumber, throw some strawberries in there, and then it becomes, something. My teen isn't a huge water fan like those others. But she puts all kinds of things in her water, different fruits and vegetables, and it becomes cool, I think, then maybe.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, we'll have to have an off site where we get.
I'm excited.
My brain is still going. I need to jump
I see Lucas's
in with you.
Yeah, his hamster's going. Well, we want to be respectful of your time, and I can see that you're in your house there. So Lucas's favorite question always. I'll let him take it away.
Yeah, we're sort of taking a poll, and we've entered a survey phase of the end of our recordings here to figure out like where is Healthy Family working these days? Like, what's the situation? Have things changed in the past 18 months?
Well, yes, they have changed. um, I'm very fortunate. Our organization has been kind of a flexible workspace from the beginning. Back when I started in 2010, um, there was the kind of just overall feeling that where you work best and where you can be most productive and getting your work done and having a balance between work and life is where you can work from. And so I guess I was like, we were like trendsetters maybe before
There you go.
pandemic. We do have a small office here in Orlando. We haven't really been there much over the past year and a half. And so considering maybe, letting that go. So I think we'll be at home. We'll be getting together though, because we're
There you
spread
go.
out a bit, which we haven't done a lot of the last year and a half, but we have a
Still
kind of a
important.
powwow planned for the fall, and there's a couple of trade shows coming up. Which whoever thought you would say, I can't wait to go to a trade show.
They're back, baby. They're back.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, as we always round up these episodes to leave a little bit on the table for people to learn more about Healthy Families Project, please, you guys, go check out their website. Is it healthyfamiliesproject.com?
Healthyfamilyproject.com.
Yep. And of course, we'd love to hear from you on a recommendation of who we might talk to next that might be able to either continue this conversation or another conversation for the association audience that we carry.
Sure. I have a great recommendation. His name is Joe Waters. He has a website, Selfish Giving. And like I said before, how there's kind of was maybe a stigma of like, oh, you're great, you're boosting sales and giving back. There's something wrong with that, So he's right out there, Selfish Giving. And he works with large corporations to help them find their cause, connect them to a cause. He does great webinars. He is a very useful, when people talk about utility, that term, go out and be useful and everything will follow. He is very useful in the space, and I think he would be awesome to talk to.
Cool.
That's great. All right, Joe, we're going to come chat with you, and we hope to see you soon on this show. Amanda, it's such a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much for this fun conversation. Again, it was a little bit of a left turn for us, but I think it's so relevant to some of the work that we do, and I think people will really benefit from it.
Thank you for having me.